It's Wednesday, July 6. In the headlines, $2.7 billion in aid for Jamaicans. Electronic surveillance ticketing system coming soon. Regionally, CCJ dismisses application by the opposition in Dominica in election case. And in sports, 1,500 athletes set to compete in the 2022 Central American and Caribbean Swimming Federation Championships. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Aid is coming for struggling Jamaicans. This was the assertion made in Parliament by Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, as he outlined a $2.7 billion social intervention package in addition to a $1.1 billion in budgetary support.
The first component, Mr. Speaker, is $750 million for an independence cleanup of parish capitals, of which $550 million will be allocated to the National Solid Waste Management Authority, and $189 million, the total is $11 million short of $750, apologies for that, $189 million through members of Parliament via the Constituency Development Fund, $150 million for the trucking of water. And from the response in this House, Mr. Speaker, you understand that this is a real need. This will be done through the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to facilitate the trucking of waters to areas experiencing water challenges due to the erratic nature of rainfall island-wide, especially the parishes of, and this is by the rainfall data, the parishes of, that's been provided to me, St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, and Portland, but it's not limited to that. $550 million in general welfare support for non-path beneficiaries. And to achieve an appropriate diversity, Mr. Speaker, $189 million through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, which has a particular targeting mechanism which is complementary to other modalities. And in addition to that, $189 million through the Constituency Development Fund for welfare and economic enablement activities. The municipal corporations, whenever we're doing these programs, we try to ensure they're included. So $70 million through the municipal corporations for welfare and economic support, which the Ministry of Local Government will manage and handle. And the $550 million, Mr. Speaker, also includes $52 million for the Poor Relief Department in the Ministry of Local Government and $50 million through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security Public Assistance Department. We're allocating $550 million, of which $450 million will be for approximately 45,000 NIS pensioners who receive pensions of $15,000 or less per month. We're topping them up, Mr. Speaker. And in addition, that's $450 million, and $100 million, Mr. Speaker, for 10,000 social pensioners. We will be allocating $1.789 billion in back-to-school one-off grants. We will be directing $1.6 billion for 160,000 PATH school-age children, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in addition to that modality, we'll have $189 million in back-to-school education grants and assistance to non-path, vulnerable students through the Constituency Development Fund.
Dr. Clark noted the additional $2.7 billion in expenditure will initially be funded by advances from existing budgeted resources and will be cleared following regularization of the expenditure in the first supplementary estimates 2022-2023.
The government is listening to the people. And Mr. Speaker, the government is responding to the people. Thank you.
In his response to the allocation, Opposition leader Mark Golding told the House that this was a step in the right direction, but more has to be done.
The throes of ecstasy being expressed by the other side indicates that they think it's an adequate expression of additional support. I mean, at the end of the day, 2.7 billion of additional expenditure isn't even a fifth of 1% of GDP. So it's not a huge amount of money to be spending on the society as a whole, given the situation that we're facing with the cost of living crisis that's on the people, the very high levels of gas prices, the high levels of food prices, and indeed the high interest rates that are facing business people and mortgage payers and so on. So, we feel this is a good move in the right direction, but we feel a lot more needs to be done.
Meanwhile, opposition member queried Dr. Clark on the gas relief measure.
The 25,000 per PPV, but you had announced it in your budget presentation. It has now just come online. Every minister could say why there was such a delay in it, because from when you announced it to the increase in petrol, the variance in the 25,000 to then till now, what had caused the delay?
Dr. Clark explained why.
The labor shortage and the skill shortage in the country is real, and it affects government as well. And the turnover that we have had at eGov is incredible. I mean, they're very employable because these are young people who work on a variety of technology programs, software programs across the government. So they get snatched up the moment they're trained. And so when this thing was announced, the staff complement was severely compromised. There was a backlog of projects. And so that is what took a little extra.
Dr. Clark also gave an update on the uptake by PPV operators.
We've only had 3,000 people. And by application, it's really signing up. Because it's just your name, your TRN, I think your PPV license, information you can sign up in 60 seconds if you have it on hand. So it's really signing up. But we've only had 3,000 so far. So we're going to keep it open until August. Hopefully, many more will sign up and receive the payment from the government.
More deterrents are coming for motorists who commit traffic violations. On Tuesday, the House of Representatives gave the nod to the new 299 regulations, which laid down a slate of new offences and fines under the 2018 Road Traffic Bill. Portfolio Minister Audley Shaw outlined the new provisions under the Road Traffic Regulations 2022, which were subsequently approved. Legislation such as the 2018 Road Traffic Bill is passed by Parliament and sets out broad legal and policy principles about a topic. It describes requirements and can include punishments for breaking the law. Regulations, like the Road Traffic Regulations 2022, are described as rules, bylaws, and some codes that define and control how the authority operates to implement the law. Raquel Robinson tells us more.
Motorists who commit road traffic offences are to be ticketed electronically for offences committed when surveillance is implemented under the 2018 Road Traffic Act. Portfolio Minister Audley Shaw says the new electronic monitoring and surveillance regulations will allow for remote detection of offences and ticketing using cameras and other electronic devices.
Since 2012, we have seen a steady increase in road fatalities in Jamaica. It has to turn around.
It's common practice for motorcyclists to ride without a helmet, but Minister Shaw says under the new Road Traffic Act, motorcyclists will be required to wear Bureau of Standards Jamaica-approved helmets, whether purchased locally or overseas.
Safe operation of motorcycles and pedal cycles is targeted through specific provisions governing their use on roads. With the requisite protective gear, in addition to the prescribed helmet, motorcyclists will be required to wear a high visibility vest.
Also, general driving rules that have traditionally been only included in the road code, such as driving on the left, right-of-way rules at intersections, overtaking and other maneuvers, and parking prohibitions are embedded in the regulations.
Use of traffic control devices, as well as other restrictions on the use of the road to direct the actions and behavior of drivers are addressed. The different types and classes of traffic control devices and how they should be used on the road are outlined, with details of traffic signs set out in the 10th schedule. Provisions address damage or obstruction of traffic signs, whether deliberately or accidentally. Additionally, rules relating to pedestrian crossings are also included, with the mechanism for establishing and removing crossings being simplified and brought in line with current practice.
Other new regulations include the requirement for driving instructors who are paid to become certified, as well as licensing of driving schools. This is to be monitored by the Island Traffic Authority, ITA, which will keep a registry. Minister Shaw says where the instructor is a family member, certification will not be needed. The minister has indicated that only a fraction of the 13-part law will be brought into operation for now. The ITA is also empowered to require specific training or retesting for persons whose driver's license have been suspended. Members of Parliament from both sides of the aisle welcome the regulations, but caution that enforcement and public education were equally important. For PBCJ News, I'm Raquel Robinson.
President of the People's National Party, Mark Golding, is confident he will be returned unopposed in the upcoming PMP elections. As it currently stands, he is the only candidate for the post of president. On Tuesday at the party's headquarters on Old Hope Road, 4 persons were nominated for one of the vice president positions. They are Senator Donna Scott Motley, Mikhail Phillips,
Ian Hales, and Norman Scott.
Following his nomination earlier, Golding said that he was happy with the progress that the party was making. Nominations will be closed on midday on Friday. Grammy Award-nominated reggae artist Skip Marley is the youth ambassador for the 2022 Jamaica Poetry Festival. The singer-songwriter has expressed his excitement to perform and present, as his focus is on using the power of lyrics to take people to a higher place. His appointment comes on the heels of the Recording Academy's announcement that an award category for poetry has been added to the 65th Grammy Awards in 2023. The Poetry Festival, which is in its 12th year, is slated for Sunday, August 14. In the business report, the BOJ responds to its critics over the interest rate increase. Danita Rodney is at the business desk to tell us more.
Speaking at a standing finance committee meeting on July 5, the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, defended its interest rate hike policy. Inflation in Jamaica has been running ahead of the central bank's 4 to 6% target, peaking at 11.8% in April before reducing to 10.9% in May. Critics have slammed the BOJ for raising the interest rate from 5% to 5.50%. When asked how much of the inflation rate was due to external factors, Senior Deputy Governor Wayne Robinson had this to say.
Our estimate is that the combined impact of all of those factors is around 70% of the inflation. So it is substantial. Whereas we can't control that direct impact, we have an influence on the second round impact. And that constitutes 2 things. So when a good lands here, the Jamaican dollar price matters, and this is where the exchange rate comes in. There's also another component in which other goods that are not necessarily have a heavily import content, other goods, other producers may also raise their prices because they are expecting prices generally to rise as well. So we will see, for example, that rental rates, for example, which has nothing to do with commodity price, rental rates will go up because people are trying to protect themselves, to protect their income. It is those effects that the bank and its monetary policy is actually trying to dampen. We can't affect the main shock if oil price goes up, but how it ripples through and how it affects the rest of the economy, that's what we're trying to temper.
He also said that the bank is using a three-pronged approach in an effort to reduce the expected 30% increase internally.
One is to adjust interest rates, because we have to change relative prices. The other is that we have been a lot more aggressive in ensuring adequate supply of foreign exchange in the market so that the exchange rate would be less volatile and more stable. And also we are constraining the amount of Jamaican dollar liquidity that's available in the system.
Governor Biles chimed in, noting that the approach is not a smooth fix and will have side effects.
The idea is to slow down demand, take some of the demand out of the economy and let prices settle off a little bit. So it has a positive and a negative effect, unfortunately.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, July 5, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.41. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.99. The pound sterling traded for $183.19. And the euro sold for an average of $160.11. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Tuesday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 631 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index declined by 9 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 500 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,073 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 102 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 47 declined, and 12 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Trading firm were Access Financial Services Limited, Diamond Trading Company Limited, and Jamaica Public Service Company 9.5%. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders. Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 241 million units, Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 3 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 1 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund was the only active security posting a volume of 70 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was the volume leader with over 146,000 shares. They were followed by Epic Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund with 2,400 shares and Goddard Enterprises Limited, which traded 822 shares. In market data for oil prices rose, clawing back some of Tuesday's heavy losses as supply concerns returned to the fore and outweighed lingering worries about a potential global recession. Brent crude rose by $1.43 to $104.20, and West Texas Intermediate crude climbed 65.
In regional news, the new Caricom chairman has updated the media on some of the decisions made at the Caricom Heads of Government Summit, which came to a close on Tuesday in Suriname. President Santoki of Suriname described the conference as fruitful, as the heads of government engaged on a number of issues, including intra-regional trade, reparations, and food security. The chairman also revealed plans are in the works for the implementation of several policies to advance the agri-food agenda aimed at reducing the region's food import bill.
We continue to pursue our agri-food agenda to enhance our food and nutrition security and to achieve the 25 by 2025 vision, the reduction of the food import bill by 25% by 2025. In that regard, we mandated the Council for Trade and Economic Development to conclude by the end of this month the programs aimed at removal of all non-tariff barriers to intra-regional trade, particularly agriculture goods.
The Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, on Tuesday rejected an application for special leave to appeal against the decision of the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal that it had the jurisdiction to entertain appeals against the decision of the High Court judge in Dominica, striking out election petitions for not disclosing a cause of action. Senior counsel Anthony Astafan told the Caribbean Media Corporation, CMC, that the ruling is a very important decision because the basis of the decision is that whether the judge was right or wrong. Astafan opined that the CCJ was clearly of the view that it was within the competence of the High Court judge to strike out the petition and not disclose the cause of action. The application had been filed by members of the main opposition United Workers' Party, UWP, which lost the December 6, 2019 general election to the ruling Dominica Labour Party, DLP, by an 18-3 margin. In January 2020, the UWP filed election petitions against Melissa Skerritt, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt, the Chief Elections Officer and the Police Commissioner, alleging several irregularities in the election process and sought to have the court overturn the results in key constituencies. His plan was not to be in the seat of the opposition leader. Dr. Keith Mitchell made this admission as he accepted his instruments of appointment as leader of the opposition in Grenada. He reiterated his intent for this to be a short-lived position as he prepares to step away from frontline politics.
Opposition leader Dr. Keith Mitchell received his instrument of appointment from Her Excellency Dame Cecile La Grenade on Monday. In his remarks following his appointment, the opposition leader says it's an instrument he did not expect he would be receiving following the recent general elections. The opposition leader notes that his role and that of his 5 other colleagues are crucial.
Brothers, I see my role and that of my other 5 colleagues as crucial in upholding the tenets of our democracy and promoting good governance at this crucial juncture in our history.
Dr. Mitchell says he embraces his new role, vowing to support the programs, policies and laws that seek to defend and empower the people of Grenada. He says their voices will be heard, noting that they will stand up against marginalization.
Barbadians are once again reacting to fuel price hikes. On Tuesday, the price of gasoline in Barbados increased by 31 cents to $4 per liter. Meanwhile, diesel increased by 4 cents to $2.66. News of the dramatic price increase has left many re-evaluating their commute and driving practices to save an extra dollar.
In my opinion, jolly right ain't done. You got to move around these days, you got to plan it out. If you don't plan it out, I don't know where you can go with this fuel.
So far, this vehicle is being filled and is literally taking $250. I hope that the powers to be can do some changes to this as soon as possible.
I am going to plan my route better. I'm going to drive with my husband on the weekend so he can buy the gas. And 3, what am I going to do? I'm going to get my sister-in-law to pick me up and take me everywhere I want to go.
I tend to drive everywhere with the air conditioner on, but I think with the prices as they are, I'm going to have to really reduce my use of air conditioning.
For my family, yeah, if we can, we try to use one car.
La Nina conditions are in place, and as a result, high flooding, flash flood, landslide, rockfall and soil erosion potential across Belize and the Caribbean islands will prevail until December and from late November in the coastal Guineas. Tuesday, the Barbados-based Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, Caricom, in its latest edition of the Caribbean Climate Outlook newsletter, said with the transition into the dry season in Belize and other islands, frequent short dry spells are expected from Hispaniola westward, potentially impacting unprotected crop farming, especially in the case of pre-existing drought. Caricom says that for the period July to September, this part of the wet heat hurricane season is forecast to bring an increase in rainfall totals, wet days and wet spells, and tropical cyclone activity in the Caribbean islands and in Belize. Caricom says that there is no concern for long-term drought by the end of November 2022 at this time. News further afield now. 2 of Britain's most senior cabinet ministers have quit, a move that could spell the end of Prime Minister Boris Johnson's leadership after months of scandals.
Finance Minister Rishi Sunak said in a statement he no longer saw eye to eye with Johnson and that their views on the economy were fundamentally too different. Health Secretary Sajid Javid said he could no longer continue in his role in good conscience. He said the Conservative Party were no longer popular or competent. Boris Johnson was forced to apologise once again on Tuesday. That's after he failed to come clean about what he knew about an MP who was appointed to a senior position despite claims of sexual misconduct. Well, let's get more on this from Rory Challenge in London. Rory, it looks from the outset as if this could be the start of a revolt against Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
He is hanging by a thread now, the British Prime Minister. These are mortal blows to him. We will have to see whether they really do finish him off or whether he can stagger on for a while. This is a man, a politician who is renowned for being almost Lazarus-like, able to come from the dead. But we'll have to see. This is looking very, very, very precarious for Boris Johnson. For one key minister to go is obviously a blow. For 2 to go in what is obviously an orchestrated move could well be the beginning of the end.
In sports, over 1,500 athletes are set to compete in the 2022 Central American and Caribbean Swimming Federation Championships in Barbados, which will start this weekend. 27 countries are coming for the CCCAN Games, which include swimming, open water swimming, and water polo. President of the Barbados Aquatics Sports Association, Cheryl Lady Ford, outlined the program that will last about 2 weeks.
The opening ceremony takes place on Saturday, the 9th of July at 5 o'clock. And immediately after, the swimming will start. That will go on until the 13th of July. And we have a short break in between there and the 16th of July, where open water swimming will start in Carlisle Bay, and that will run for 3 days. We have the 3K, the 5K, mixed relays, and a 10K race. Following on the 19th of July, water polo will start here at the Aquatic Center, and that's perhaps our largest or longest, I should say, the longest period of competition.
Reggae boy Andre Gray has joined Greek Super League club Aris Thessalonica FC on a 4-year contract. It is the first time in his club career that Wolverhampton-born Gray has moved abroad. The 31-year-old striker, who enjoyed a loan spell at English Championship club Queen's Park Rangers last season, became available on a free transfer this summer after being released by Watford at the conclusion of his 5-year contract with the Hornets. Gray will be playing in the Europa Conference League next season after Aris finished 3rd in the league last season. Football Insider reported last month that Gray, who made his debut for Jamaica last year, was in advanced talks with championship outfit Preston North End to beef up their attacking ranks, but that fell through. Gray scored 10 goals in 28 appearances for QPR during his stint at Loftus Road. The Jamaica international scored 21 times and provided 8 assists in 125 games across all competitions during his 5-year spell with Watford. Now on to the netball court. Jamaica's world-rated goal shooter Janelle Fowler and her West Coast Fever team have broken Western Australia's 25-year title drought, beating the Melbourne Vixens 70-59 on the weekend to win their first Suncorp Super Netball title. West Coast Fever had lost the 2020 and 2021 grand finals to the Vixens and Swifts respectively. That's the news on PBCJ. Thanks for watching.